that's straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
God will bring enemies, problems, difficult people in your life to make you perfect before your Father in heaven. Perfection isn't the perfect world. And here we come in, and many times it's a Christian bubble. I come into my perfect world, and I go and I have lunch with the perfect people, and then I go back home into my perfect, and there is no such thing, because we'll never be perfect before our Father in heaven.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pour into us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
Dealing with difficult people can be quite challenging sometimes. Unfortunately, once Satan figures out that a specific person or circumstance can easily get the better of us, he will use that same tactic over and over to knock us down. In today's message, Pastor Ray will be sharing the importance of learning to love our enemies, even though it can be challenging. Perhaps you know someone that you have a hard time getting along with. Don't let the enemy use them to steal your joy and peace. Fight back with love and forgiveness. Well, let's join Pastor Ray for today's edition of Light of the Word from 1 Samuel chapter 18.
1 Samuel 18, verses 12 through 30 today. Well, we are up to this point in chapter 18, and a summation to recap where we've been is that Saul has been rejected as king, and David has been anointed as king. But what we got is about 10 to 15 years of some drama between Saul and David, and we're all very well familiar with that drama, and it gets more intense each week that we come here. Chapter 17, David killed the giant, and the beginning of chapter 18, as we studied, Saul couldn't stand the song. It was his top 40 song, and it was all 40 of them, counting down the hits. Saul has killed his 1,000, and David is 10,000. And this now is a man full of jealousy, and this jealousy will bring him to a place of literally, if we were to look at it, insanity. He's a man out of his mind at times, and we'll see that as we develop through this passage today. So in our passage today, we see enemies developed. Have any enemies? In our passage today, we see jealousy. Saul jealous. Have you ever struggled with jealousy? Have you ever been the recipient of jealousy? We see God give a word here today, anger and fear and these type of things. So let's just get into our passage and take a look at it. Verses 12 through 30. Let's start in verse 10 for a little skip into the beginning of this. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 10. And it happened on the next day that the distressing spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied inside the house. So David played music with his hand at other times, but there was a spear in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the spear, for he said, I will pin David to the wall. But David escaped his presence twice. And as I said last week, I believe the prophecy that Saul was speaking was that he was hearing the word of God. David is king, not you. Cast the spear, verse 12 and 13. Now Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him, but he departed from Saul. Verse 13, therefore Saul removed him from his presence and made him captain over 1,000, and he went and came in before the people. Saul has been rejected by the Lord The Lord has now departed Saul, and here we see the drama intensifying. And here's what Saul's going to do. We're going to see it through this passage and into passages to come. Saul wants to send David out into the battlefield to be killed. Just simple as that. If I can send him out in the battlefield, and we'll actually read it in a couple verses where he says, why should my hand be upon him? Let the Philistines take care. Let the Philistines do my dirty work for me. So Saul has this thing, if I can send David out into harm's way, my enemy, my problem will be killed, destroyed, and gone. I say this all the time. And it is so applicable, and we have to apply it to our lives. Saul, my counsel to you, if I sat with you as a pastor, I would say, Saul, there's another David right behind this one. You can deal with this David, and you can kill this David, and you can think that your problem will be gone, but there will be another David right behind this one. And that's the way it is in our life, Christian. So many times we think if I can just deal with this problem as this person, just get this person away from me, just put them out of my life, drive them out of the church or drive them out of my workplace or drive them out of you fill in the blank, then I'll finally have a place of peace again. It doesn't work that way, because I want to tell you something. When Satan sees what works against you, and when he sees I put difficult people into your life and you can't handle it, that you can't do anything but think about it over and over of how to get rid of them and how to do away with them, I'm just going to keep bringing them over and over, because it worked first, it will work the second, it will work the third. And here's what it is for us. Until we learn how to love our enemies, you can be sure you will have more enemies in your life than you can count. Because if you can't love your enemies, if you can't have a place in your heart for your enemies, you can be sure that Satan's going to make sure that you have more than enough enemies in your life. Matthew chapter 5, verse 43. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Is this not David? Perfect application to the life of David. Is this not a picture of David taking this, applying it to his life? Because one man is no peace and filled with anger, rage, jealousy, and fear, and the other man is filled with peace and power, because one man has learned how to love his enemy. Verse 45, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven, for he makes his sun shine on the evil, on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brethren only, what do more than others? Do not even the tax collector do so? Therefore, you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Do you want perfection, Christian? God will bring enemies, problems, difficult people in your life to make you perfect before your Father in heaven. Perfection isn't the perfect world. And here we come in, and many times it's a Christian bubble. I come into my perfect world, and I go and I have lunch with the perfect people, and then I go back home into my perfect, and there is no such thing, because we'll never be perfect before our Father in heaven. But when we allow these things, oh, what God does in these things. And look at this. If you saw back in verse 5, David went out wherever Saul sent him and behaved wisely, and Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people and also in the sight of Saul's servants. I don't know if you see what's happening. David was over all of Saul's army. Now he's been demoted. He's now only over 1,000 instead of over them all. You know what? That changes everything. When you're over all, and we saw it with Moses, and we saw the battle when the sun stood still. There's a place where the commander has to take positioned to overlook the whole battlefield, and he has to make movements and decisions in the midst of the battle, and he's literally not in the battle in the sense of sword to sword. He is in a place to command the battle. Well, when you get into your captain of 1,000, you're into the war. So Saul has demoted David to put him on the front line, if you would. And isn't that interesting how what's going to happen to David several years from now? But we'll wait to get to that place. Saul has demoted David. And what does David do? What does he do? He keeps serving faithfully. David has come to this place continually, and we'll see this. David's trust in the Lord. And David's just going to be faithful to whatever the Lord has him, wherever the Lord has him. Ephesians 6 for you in the workplace. Ephesians 6, verse 5 through 8. Bondservants, be obedient to those who are your masters, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and sincerity of heart as to Christ. Not with eye servants as men pleasers, but as bondservants in Christ, doing the will of God from the heart with good will, doing service as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatever good anyone does, he will receive the same from the Lord, whether he is a slave or free. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're in the workplace and other people are getting promoted. And you're like, I'm literally the best worker. And that's nothing of pride statement. It's easy to look around and see some people and their work ethics. And then all of a sudden it's time to promote somebody up. And you go, really? Are you serious? I mean, this person spends more time cruising the internet than they do doing the job. I come to work in Ephesians 6. I work as unto the Lord. I mean, I serve, I produce, I bring reward to the company, and this person gets the promotion. Happens in the sports field all the time. When your kids are playing soccer, when your kids, boy, the favoritisms that can play, and you say, man, my kid's the best player out there. Are you serious? How did so-and-so get to start over my child? You know, there's a place where we just go, you know what, Lord? I'm just going to serve you. I'm just going to be faithful to you. And when you're in the workplace, I'm still just going to come to work, and I'm going to work because you know what? Here's the thing that's in our flesh, and it's in every one of us, of you know what? Then I'm going to back off. If that's what's going to happen to me, then I'm just going to work like the rest of them. I'm just going to come and join in to working half-heartedly. But when we come into the place of, you know what? God, you'll promote me. Whatever that would mean. And it might not necessarily mean in the workplace. But God, I'm just going to come here because I work for you. And at the end of every day, Christian, we have to be in this place. I served you well. My employer asked me for 8 hours, and I gave him 8 hours. My employer gave me 100 bricks, and I moved 100 bricks. And at the end of the day, if they paid him and he only moved 50 bricks, but they paid him the quality of 100 bricks, so be it. But as for me, Lord, they asked me to move 100 bricks. I was faithful to move 100 bricks. And I'm going to come in tomorrow and I'm going to move 100 bricks. And I'm going to come in, and here's the thing, with an attitude of Christ. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to be a worker that will not complain, that will not gripe. I'm just going to trust you, Lord. It's easy to come into this place of demotion and go, I'm just going to come in with an attitude. And you know what? You'll never have a testimony. And you'll never have a witness. Because you'll be just like the people that you go, they shouldn't be promoted. So God puts us in these places. And I do find it interesting as we were looking at that back in verse 10, and now here we are. Here's David. He kills a giant with a sling. He's going out. He's the captain over all these armies. Yet he's humble enough to come back in and pick up a harp and play a harp for the king. There's nothing too menial or low or under David. What is it that God needs at this moment? What is it that's best for the kingdom of God? That's what I'm going to do, whether it's a sling, a sword, or a harp. How about us? There's a place, and it's a dangerous place, in the workplace, in the ministry, in the home, where we can come to a place that we're above the menial. We're above the base. We're above the things that are like, no, I've moved on from that. I've earned a place. I've come to a elevation that I don't do those things. I remember of D.L. Moody, tremendous preacher, man of God, and he would hold conferences in his Bible center there in Massachusetts. And he had a bunch of European pastors come to this conference. And they were doing all-day conference and this and thing. And at the end of the day, Moody was heading back to his room, as it was a conference center. And as he walked to his room that he was staying in, he walked by all the rooms that the UK pastors were staying in, and he noticed shoes in front of every door. Because, see, in the United Kingdom at this time, when you stayed someplace, you would put your shoes outside the door, and the servant of that place, wherever you were staying, would take your shoes and polish your shoes and put your shoes back. They just assumed that's how it was in the United States also. As Moody comes walking, he sees these shoes, and he realizes these brothers are going to be embarrassed tomorrow that their shoes aren't polished. They're going to feel kind of funny. Moody said to some of the Bible college students there's a bunch of shoes that pastors put out, and that's what the expectation is, to which the response was, I ain't got time for that. I'm a Bible student. I'm a teacher. I'm going to be, and there was pious responses or whatever it was. So D.L. Moody, this mighty preacher, this mighty evangelist, hosting the conference, leading the conference, went and collected every set of shoes, took them back to his room, and polished every last shoe, and then took them and put them back out in front of the doors. And no one would ever have known, except one of his friends came walking in on him while he was doing it to talk about the next day's agenda, and he sees these pile of shoes. And his friend went, and the next morning, and he told all the conference students, not the men from the UK, of what he had witnessed. And that night, there was not a shoe for D.L. Moody to polish, because the students all went and saw, if that man of God can lower and humble himself to polish shoes, then that must be the way and the means of greatness. David, what a man after God's own heart. If the kingdom needs a harpist right now, then I will play the harp. If tomorrow I need a sling and a sword, then I will pick up a sling and a sword. But tonight, they need a harpist, and I will go play the harp. And I think there's a place for us in that. Don't be afraid to do the small things, the menial things, Christian. Let God do a great work in you in the so-called small work. Verse 14 and 15. And David behaved wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Therefore, when Saul saw that he behaved very wisely, he was afraid of him. We're going to continually read, David behaved wisely. We're going to continually read, Saul doesn't. What a picture of Proverbs 11:12. He who is devoid of wisdom despises his neighbor. There's Saul. But a man of understanding holds his peace, and we're going to talk more about that next week. David holds his peace time and time again. Christian, wisdom is grown in the garden of humility. It's cultivated in a place of humility. Because you know what I say and why I say that is, a man, woman who is not humble sees no need of wisdom, because they feel that they have arrived. They feel that they are equipped with all that they need. But when a person comes in humility and sees themselves in this place, you know what? If it's not for you, Lord, if you don't do a work, if you don't show up, this ain't going to work. This is all going to fall apart. And when a person comes in humility, then God gives them the wisdom. Here's the wisdom that you need for today to do the things that I'm calling you to do today, because James 4:6, but he gives more grace. Therefore, he said, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. David, what a picture, life of grace we're seeing. And he's a giver of grace. James 1:5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But you got to be humble. You got to come with a place. You know what, Lord, I ain't got this all figured out. Regardless of what position, regardless of how long you've been walking with the Lord, regardless of how God is using you, there's this continual place of, you know what, Lord, if you don't give me wisdom, I'm going to make a bad decision. And so God continually gives David wisdom, because we continually see this theme and this thread through the life of David, humility. Back in verse 8 and 9, then Saul, this is after the psalm, Saul killed his 1,000, David his 10,000. Then Saul was very angry, and the sayings displeased him, and he said, they have ascribed to David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed only 1,000. Now what more can he have but the kingdom? So Saul eyed David from that day forward. That word, then Saul was angry. It literally means a slow burn. This continual kindling and a slow burn. It didn't start as this raging fire, but there was this continual burn all day in and day out. And it burned. It's like an acid upon him. Every time he hears David, every time he sees David, every time he hears that song, it's like a drop of acid that just gnaws at him and burns upon him. And here it slowly burns. Verse 15, therefore, when Saul saw that he behaved very wisely, he was afraid of him. Christian, listen, vitally important. Behind all anger is fear. Behind all anger is fear. Now, when you take that and you lock that in, and how often we forget it and how often we lose it in the midst of anger. Most people aren't angry 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anger's a moment, and we come into a moment, and anger is being displayed, whether by the person before us or whether coming from our own heart. There's a moment of anger. And boy, you've been there. Boy, you've been that. This anger explodes, this wrath comes out against you or from you, and you sit there and it gets intense. It gets very heated. It burns. If you would stop, if we would stop, I will say, if I will stop. And I step back and I go, behind all anger is fear. What is it do I fear? This anger that comes out, I know there's a fear. What is it that I'm fearful of? What am I afraid of? Saul's afraid of losing his kingdom. He just said it right here.
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright.
The Word of God is so applicable to the lives of all Christians from the time it was written long into the future. As we continue to study the book of 1 Samuel, we'll learn to listen to God from Samuel and how to love our Creator with all our heart from David. We can even learn from Saul, who failed time and again to follow the one who set him on the throne in the first place. Through each life we see in this book, we're exposed to God's mercy and power, and it will leave us with a choice to make. Will we follow God or try to go on our own way? If you've been exploring what it means to live for your Creator and you're ready to take the next step, we'd like to let you know that we're here to help. We'd love to pray for you, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you have. Please send an email to mail@ccaac.org or give us a call at 443-995-3282. That number again is 443-995-3282. We've also created a page on our website that will give you a better idea of how much meaning life can have when you choose God. Visit ccaac.org and click on the meaning of life to learn more. That website again is ccaac.org. That's all we have time for today. But join us next time right here on Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.
You have made